Okay. Who's coming? Yes, no. Good afternoon, Clarence. I hope the attendance will not decline with increasing weeks in the semester, because I feel that I think lecture is the only time that I can have a contact with you, and I think the bad features of the online is that I cannot see you in person, and there is a very few questions, or it seems like there is no interactions at all. Okay. So today we're gonna go into a little bit into the week 2 mathematical modeling. So yesterday we have gone through a bit of icebreaker. So we introduce all the unit conveners and lecturers for this process control. Okay. Dr. Vignesh will come in April. So we will see how we're gonna fit with co-lecturing with him, and then Hannah and Frederick will be helping in tutoring and also your assessment as well. Okay. Then we go into the week 1. We tell you what process control is about. We introduce to you why process control is important. Okay, and then we go into the basics of the process control. We overview the control structure, the feedback control structure, the feed-forward control structure, the inferential control systems. We will go a bit more deeper into that thing as we go later on. Okay. And since we are adding some new materials as well, we probably have to go a little bit faster in some weeks, because we are adding a little bit of different materials such as plan-wide process control that were not covered by Dr. Mahmud in the previous year's process control. Okay. So in this week 2, we're gonna go into the mathematical modeling. Okay. Mathematical modeling. So let me just go into the slideshow, and please don't hesitate to throw me any questions if you have anything. Not just me talking. Otherwise, that's gonna be a passive, and you don't really get much if you just be quiet. Asking is good. Okay. There is no such thing like a stupid question. Okay. Mathematical modeling. So at the end of this lecture, you should be able to explain what mathematical model is, the needs for modeling of chemical processes, general modeling principles, the degree of freedom analysis, develop models of simple chemical processes, then linearized nonlinear systems with one variable, linearized nonlinear systems with many variables, use Laplace transform of representative functions, and solve differential equations using Laplace transform techniques. Okay. There are about 69 slides in this thing, so we will not cover everything. We'll try to cover just a bit before the middle of these slides. Then we're gonna go into the next week to continue this one. Okay. So let's assume that we have an experimental setup like this. So this experimental setup is something that more like a distillation setup. Okay. So this one is the heating system. You have a cooling water and then the volume of the distilled water. So we have, for a given input in here is the temperature, then a particular output in there is the volume. Okay. So this one is the input, one is the output. Okay. So we are asked to represent this experimental setup correlation using mathematical equations. So we can do this kind of fitting where we can basically develop a correlations between the output with the input. Okay, using these correlations in here. So those are something that what we call a mathematical modeling. Okay, therefore, like we have what we have discussed also in the process modeling. Modeling is building a mathematical description of the physical reality in the form of equations and correlations. Okay, so this also has been covered in process modeling. We have the theoretical model, empirical model, and semi-empirical model. If the model is developed from the first principle, something like mass, energy, and momentum balance, there is called theoretical model. If that is based on the observation or experience obtained normally by fitting the experimental data, then it's called an empirical model. If that thing, that model, take into account both the theoretical and the empirical model, as in like it's also developed from the first principle, but it also contains some kind of fitting of the experimental data, that is called the semi-empirical model. Okay, so how do we develop a theoretical models? First, we state the modeling objectives and the end use of the model. So we always have to ask ourselves, what are the required level of model detail? So, for example, before we go into the transport phenomena level, which is using a microscopic, we have three different level. For example, the first one is the macroscopic, okay? Then the one that is more detailed is microscopic, and then there is another level that we call the molecular level. So those of you have done transport phenomena, you will know these three different representative of the level. So the microscopic will be a bit more difficult to solve than the macroscopic, okay? And the molecular, for example, will be more difficult to solve or to formulate relative to the microscopic. But we do transfer phenomena because we need to know the picture into the different part of that particular system. So, for example, in the flow of the liquid on top of the parallel plate, we know that we have a velocity distribution. So it all goes back again into the level of the detail that you need. Okay, then it's very important that we have to have a schematic diagram of the process and then label all the process variables. Okay, the next one will be the assumptions. We need to list all the assumptions that are involved in developing the model. Okay, then we need to know the next one, whether the spatial variations of the process variables are important or not. If the spatial variables of the process variables are important, then we need to go into the microscopic model, or something that we call the distributed model. If we deal with the different distributed model, then a partial differential equations will be required. Okay, then the next one is we use the same conservation equation, except because our systems we envision the inner part of that systems is having microscopic or macroscopic, then we may have a different scale where we build that conservation equations on. Okay. The next one will be introducing the equilibrium relations or other algebraic equations. Then we need to check the degree of freedom analysis. We need to check the degree of the freedom, because for a specific problem where the degree of freedom is 0, then only we can have a unique solution. Okay. Sometimes we also need to simplify the models, okay, and make it into explicit model form. For process control, we also need to understand which variables is categorized as a disturbance variable, which one is the manipulated variables, and which one do we want to control. Okay. So everything goes back again to the conservation laws. So the equation number 1 in here shows the conservation of mass. Okay, and the equation number 2 in here, conservation of the component I. Okay, mass with component is a bit different. Okay, because you remember in your chemical engineering principles again that the mass is conserved. Okay, but the component may not be conserved because you may have a reaction, and that reaction may lead to the consumptions or to the generations. Okay, so that means when we are dealing with the reaction, it's important that we are using a mole. But when we are using something like a momentum balance, for example, then normally we use a unit of mass. Okay, then the next equation number 3 in here, something that we call the conservation of energy, and also something that is defined as the first law of thermodynamics also applies in the system as well. Okay, now why do we use a mathematical modeling? To improve the understanding of the process. Because process model can be used to simplify your life. For example, if you if you don't really have the budget to carry out the real process yet, then you want to know whether that particular process will be good or not, then that's a thing where you are using a model, something that you build into your process simulator, Aspen HYSYS or Aspen Plus. Okay, likewise, if you want to simulate something like a process, like a membrane, whether you want to have a counter current configurations or you want to have a co-current configuration. So what I meant by co-current configuration is if the flow of in one side is from here to here, then the other sides will be the same as well. If counter current, meaning that the flow on the different sides is opposing each other. So one is flowing to the left, the other one is flowing to the right, for example. Okay. And this mathematical modeling can also be used to train operating personnel. So in case you have some kind of complex process or a situation that may lead to a safety compromise, then you can use the simulator or mathematical modeling to simulate the process. Okay. Are actually a part of your project 1 in the MATLAB. Okay. Where we basically shows that the process control can be simulated using a MATLAB. Okay, MATLAB will be the hardcore way of you to carry out the simulations, because in MATLAB you have to deal with the looping and everything. I will discuss that thing shortly. So this is something that we call a nonlinear CSTR. Okay, if you go with the Laplace transform later on, you will have to basically deal with the transfer function. The transfer function, you go into the Laplace transform, then you can only deal with the linearized model of your process. The first thing that you need to deal first is that you need to understand the process in here. This is a process that we have called continuous stirred tank reactor. So in this particular process, you have the CSTR, continuous stirred tank reactor. You have a stirrer in here, okay, and also a jacket in here, okay. The stirred tank, the tank has a volume of V. The jacket has a volume of Vj. Okay, at any particular time, you have an inlet of V naught, a concentration of A that comes in called Ca naught, and then the T naught, the temperature. Now, we assume that the A in here is simply, it is an irreversible reactions where A simply reacts into another products, okay, such that the A is consumed, okay, and then in the outlet we have a flow rate of F, Ca, and the temperature of the reactor. Okay. Now, the assumptions that we have in this particular model is that we are operating at the steady state. So, meaning that our flow rate of our inlet flow rate will be equal to the outlet flow rate. So, in this case, we basically avoid the complications of having to deal with the liquid level control. Okay, everybody get it, right? Because I already discussed this on the slide week 1. So we basically avoid the complications of dealing with the liquid level control, because by the sake of having this, meaning that the liquid level in the tanks is preserved. Okay, but we have to deal with the temperature control within this reactor. Okay, so the temperature of the reactor is very important, because if the temperature of the reactor goes exceeding a certain value, then we will have a problem. Okay, because we will simply have a problem if that exceeds a particular temperature, and we need to know whether this reactions is an exothermic or an endothermic. That thing we can know from the signs of these things in here, the signs of this lambda in here. Okay, if this lambda is negative, then it means that negative with negative becomes positive in here, meaning your temperature of the reactor will increase with as a functions of time. Okay, that sounds simple, right? You by becoming a chemical engineer, you can tell easily from the equations that if this is negative, then let's say this one is positive already, and this coming from the jacket cooling in here, because what we measures in here is basically the temperature of the jacket. Okay, the temperature of the jacket. I probably not very clear in here, but actually the one that we're supposed to measure in here is the temperature in here. Okay, the temperature of the reactor. But this temperature of the jacket will also need to be measured as well to control the temperature of the jacket in here, such that the heat will be dissipated from the reactor into the jacket. Okay, but this one is basically just showing you one possible representation. Okay, so in your project one later on, you will deal with these three equations in here. Okay, and this one is represented by the systems in here. So if say at a particular time of t equal 20 minutes, then we set a disturbance. Okay, a disturbance in that we decrease the feed volume, this one, by 20%. Okay, then this is what is shown. The temperature of the reactor will fluctuate, okay, before it's reaching the steady state. Okay, the temperature of the jacket, on the other hand, it will increase and fluctuate again. So what do we know in here is that the temperature of the reactor will be goes into the initial steady state value, but for the jacket temperature in here, it does not go back into the initial steady state. So meaning we have an offset in here. Okay, it's the same with the flow of the coolant within your jacket. It goes into a lower value than its original steady state value. Okay, and that's the same with the concentrations of the A in the product as well. Okay, so this is the useful of the model. So how do we model these things is given by this particular MATLAB. It looks quite simple. It's just it can be represented in one slide in here, but the logic behind this is quite delicate. I mean, you really have to understand what this program is doing. Okay, this line in here clear is basically just clearing the memory in the MATLAB. So whatever variables and values that are available in MATLAB will be cleared using these particular variables in here. So anything that you put into the MATLAB, it will be erased by putting this clear. And then this is the value of the variables that we put in. We assume that we know this value already. Okay, and this is taken from the book of Louis Ben. Louis Ben is a well-known professor in process control, teaching in the High University in US. Okay, and then the next line in here is basically setting the conversion and all the other values. So in the beginning, for example, we assume a value of the temperature of the reactor equal to 350. Okay, and then this one is the equations that you get from your reaction engineering. Okay, the CA is the CA naught multiplied by 1 minus conversion, because the conversions in the continuous stirred tank reactor is basically only one, right? You don't, it's not a plug flow reactor. In a plug flow reactor, the conversions may change as a function of your distance from the inlet. Okay, and then your K as well, your volume of the reactor, and then the area of the jacket in here. All this is basically a sizing or the design calculations for your reactor. Then we set up the controller setting for this case, 350 with 85% conversion case. So we take this value is the KC. KC in here is a proportional controller value. Okay, and then we have tau E. Tau E in here is the integral controller. Okay, so later on we will discuss that we have a different types of the controller. We have a proportional controller, we have a proportional integral controller, and we have a proportional integral derivative controller. Okay, this F nu in here is basically a value of the disturbance that we're gonna put later into the system. So if we want to reduce the flow rate at a particular time by minus 20%, that's why we have to multiply by 0.8. If we want to increase it by 20%, then we simply multiply by 1.2. Okay. This one in here is the initial conditions. Okay. Up to where we want to stop the calculation. So this one is 4 times 3,600. So meaning 3,600 in here is in seconds. Okay. So if you multiply this 4 by 60 minutes, meaning that you have this, wait a second. Meaning you stop at about 240 in here, right? It's almost the same in here, 240 or 250 in here. That will be the point where you want to stop. Okay. And then we put up the initial value for this NP is equal 0, error integral is equal 0, T-plot is equal 0. In the beginning, the CA, we set it equal to the steady state value, same like temperature in the jacket, temperature in the reactor. And then we use an increment of time of 5 seconds to integrate our ordinary differential equations. Okay. And then we have two different time lag in here. When I call a time lag in here is, let's say I measure the temperature of the reactor in here. When I measure the temperature of the reactor in here, I have a process called the heat transfer. That heat transfer will result in additional time needed to measure that the temperature reactor. So by the time this temperature of the reactor is measured in here, we have a delay in time. So that delay in time is called the time lag. So we have two things added in here because the heat transfer requires you to add a quite significant lag in measurements. Okay, then we start the looping systems while time equal less than t stop. So in the beginning we have 0, right? The t stop we set equal to 4 multiplied by 60, so that one will 240 minutes basically. Okay, then the temperature controller will start on adjusting based on the error. So there is an error in here, which is your set point minus the temperature that you measure. So this one is the final temperature that you get after subjecting the temperature reactor to the measurements. Okay, divided by 50. Okay, then this OP is basically just something that is related with the valve. Okay, with the valve measurements, and then this one is where error in here is coming with the error that you put into the proportional controller, whereas this one is the error that you put into the integral controller. Okay, and then these two logical things in here is just basically to bracket the response from your valve. So after you go here, for example, depending on the value of the error you get in here, it will determine the value of the opening and the closing of the valve in here. So this one in here is basically limiting that thing, so that your valve will not have a hangover. Okay, so it's limiting. If your OP is higher than 1, it will set to be equal to 1. If it is less than 0, then it will set it equal to 0. Then the new flow rate of the jacket will be controlled by the response that you get from the controller in here. Okay. Now the disturbance is set at time equal 1,200 seconds in here. So if you multiply, if you divide by 60, that means 20 minutes. See, you can see that the 20 minutes in here it is being applied in here, right? So at that particular time, then the value of the F will become the value of this one, F new, which is 0.8, the original value in here. Okay, then this one is basically just calculating just putting the data into your particular variables in here for plotting. Okay, this one is measuring the heat transfer area. This one is measuring the reaction rate, and all is for 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 is coming from your ODE in here. 1, 2, 3. You see, this is equations 2, 3, and 4. Okay. This particular equations is the ODE that arising from the lack of the temperature measurement, and then another one is coming from the lack of the temperature measurement. So we need to put in two legs in here to take into account the lag that happens at the different part of your controller in here. Okay, then this ODE has to be integrated using a simple Euler method in here. Okay, then whatever has been written in here is reapplied again in here. This is so-called an anti-reset windup. Okay, then finally we have the CLF. The CLF in here will clear out all the previous curve that has been plotted in the MATLAB. Okay, then we will plot 4 different plots in here. This which corresponds to these 4 different plots in here. Okay, so is everybody clear from these particular things? So this is something that is simple for these particular systems. I think in his book, Louis Ben also makes something that are much more complicated than this. Where he combined 2 or 3 different unit operations at the same time and he embedded all this controller directly into the MATLAB like this. Probably before his time, he was using a programming code, called Fortran. So that one is a bit older than this one, but the logic is also the same. So he can just convert it into MATLAB. Okay, so these are the one that you're gonna have for the project one, but not to worry, because I will not ask you to understand this project, but mostly for you to adjust the value of the disturbance, and then to basically understand what is the response about what happening with these systems, and then for you to play around with the value of the controller setting in here. Okay, so for these systems in here, we are controlling the CSTR using a proportional integral system. Okay, so that goes back into how you basically apply that mathematical modeling into your control. So you know that this mathematical modeling, that all you do is actually important because it can be used in the real simulations and to probe the controllability and response of your systems when you really code it into the system. So in this particular example, for example, you consider the following starter tank reactor where an exothermic reaction A to B takes place. Okay, so the reactor is cooled by a coolant flow that flows through the jacket around the reactor. So how you develop a dynamic model for this process, and you need to classify the process variables. So we see in here we have this inlet flow, outlet flow. We have the flow of the coolant into the reactor. We have the flow of the coolant out of the reactor, right? The assumptions that we need to put in is the perfect mixing. So the composition and temperature inside the tank are the same as the composition and temperature at the outlet of the tank. The density of the liquid is assumed to be constant. Specific heat is assumed to be constant. No energy balance for the jacket. Okay. This one is a quite simple model, I think. So how do we do? The first thing that we did is the overall mass balance. So we need to know. We need to put in this thing. Rate of mass accumulation is equal mass in and mass out. So if your mass in is not equal to your mass out, then definitely there will be an accumulations, right? But most important thing that you need to do is always put a unit to make sure that whatever on your left hand side is equal to whatever on your right hand side. Okay, if you don't put this unit in your test or in your assignment, then a point will be deducted. It's very important because as a chemical engineer, you need to know that 1 meter is different with 1 centimeter. Okay, and then how would you know the consistency of the variables that you put in the left hand side if you don't really check for that consistency in the equation? Okay, because sometimes when you derive an equations, you can use the so-called dimensional analysis to come with the right variables that you need to solve for that particular problem. So it's very important that you really probe into this, that you make sure that all the dimension is consistent. Okay, and then note that you have you know that your rho is basically constant, so you can take it out of your derivative, and as such you can cancel out this p. Then you have this particular equations in here. So the change in the volume is depending on the difference between the whatever goes into into the system minus whatever goes out from the system. Okay, then the component mass balance. Then in here you will have this rate of accumulation is equal rate in minus rate out plus rate of accumulation minus rate of consumption. So again, the unit is particularly important. Okay, I put this unit for a purpose to make sure that you see that everything is consistent. Okay, then in here you need to use a chain rule because you don't know whether this V is constant or not and the CA is constant or not. V may change with time, CA may change with time. Therefore, you need to use a chain rule in here. Okay, then the dV over dt in here goes back into your equation 1 in here, right? So meaning that you can, once you go back in here, you will get this one. Then you can simplify, which is equal to equation 2. The same with the energy balance. The energy balance is that you apply the energy balance in that systems. You see that your V may change, your T may change again, and you put in all the units in here. Don't forget these things. And again, you go back again into the equation 1 for dV over dt. You get this one, you plug it in, and you get equation number 3. Okay. Me myself, when I was a student, I don't believe in just reading will understand, will make you able to understand. So even though I don't really go in detail one by one, if I suggest you to go and redo this example again by your own, derive it again, and that will make it much more quicker for you to do it when you are facing a test or something like that. Okay, because I think on the practice is a good habit. If you just look at this and you don't really derive it by yourself, then it may be difficult later on when you try to derive it. Okay, so what you have is basically equation number 1, equation number 2, and equation number 3. Equation number 1 is the change in the volume with respect to time. Equation number 2 is the change in the concentration as a function of concentrations and a function of the temperature, and the temperature as a function of the concentration and the temperature as well. Okay, now based on these 3 equations, then we can start on classifying what are the process variable. The process variable is V, volume, flow rate in, flow rate out, concentrations of A going in, concentrations of A, temperature of the stream goes in, temperature of the stream goes out, the heat flow rate. Okay, now the manipulated variable that are possible to be manipulated will be the flow rate in, the flow rate out, with the heat flow rate as well. The disturbance variable is the Ti. Okay, because you may not be able to control the temperature of the stream that goes in, the concentrations of the A that goes in. The thing that you can control is the volume. Okay, the volume, why? You will ask me why you can control the volume, because it's essentially equal to controlling the heat. Okay, your area will be constant in here, then you multiply by the h. So let's say if the liquid level varies, then it means that your volume is the one that varies because you have a constant cross section. Okay, and also the concentrations of the A and also the temperature. Okay, and these are the parameters: the density, the CP, the heat capacity, and also the heat of the reaction. Okay. So far, are there any questions, guys? Anything that has been unclear or something that you want to clarify with me with regard to this one? All good? Any questions in the MATLAB code? No? Okay. So let's move on again. Okay. The next one is the degree of freedom analysis. The degree of freedom are the independent variable that must be specified to simulate the process model equations. The equation is expressed in here, the degree of freedom equation, okay? Where the degree of freedom is equal the number of independent variables minus the number of the independent equations. So There are three different cases. If your f is equal 0, then that means the number of the equations are the same with the number of the variables. So in this case, you have a unique problem that can only be solved. So the process will be exactly specified. Okay. If your f is higher than 0, meaning that multiple solutions may result from the E equations. Okay. So in this case, the process is said to be under specified by f equations. If we have more equations than the variables, then there is no solutions to the E equation. In this case, the process is said to be over specified by f equations. Okay, so generally, if you want to go into an uncontrolled process, it should be an under specified problem. Okay, if you have that kind of thinking, uncontrolled process, then you can make it exactly specified by specify the more disturbance variables or specify more controller equations. Okay, these are the examples. So you have this particular tank in here, okay, with the flow rate in, temperature in, and then you have the T, also the area of the tank, the heat from the coil in here, from the steam, the flow rate that goes out on the outgoing stream, and the temperature, and then this one is the condensate. Okay, the assumption is that the tank is perfectly mixed, the flow and Gp are constant, the tank is perfectly insulated. So what you will do is this, to get this total mass balance equation. Once you get this one, you get equation number 4. Okay, the energy balance, again, you do these things, and just note that although I don't put in another unit in here, it does not mean that the unit is not needed. Okay, so always cross-check everything again. Okay, and always put the units. Then divide by rho Cp, because this we can consider that they are constant, and assume, let's just assume for the simplicity that temperature of the reference is 0. Okay, it may or may not necessarily be the case, or if we take that this T reference is basically a certain value, then when we derive with respect to T, then this will become 0, right? And then if we assume additionally that rho Gp, that the flow rate of the Fi is not too much difference with the flow rate of the F, then I think the term that is containing the Tref in this particular site will cancel out with the term that containing T reference in this particular site. Okay, so whichever you want to take, whether you want to assume this one is equal 0 or you want to assume that they are almost equal, then that will cancel out basically. Okay, once we continue, then we will get this equation number 5. Okay, so the resultant mathematical models is that thing where we have two equations. Okay, the variables that we have is the H, Fi, F, Ti, T, Q, which is 6. So we still have 4 degrees of freedom to be specified in order for us to be able to solve this problem as a unique problem. Okay, how do we do that thing? We can specify some disturbance variables. So we can specify, for example, Fi and Ti. Okay, and we measure them. By measuring them, meaning that they become a variable that are no longer need to be taken into account. So when we specify, then that becomes a constant basically, right? So F is 4 minus 2 becomes 2. Okay, then we can add some control equations. For example, we can control the heat of the liquid, and we can control the temperature. So we are basically adding 2 controllers. Like yesterday, the one that I showed you, we're adding a liquid level controller in here, and then we are adding another controller for the temperature in here. So we have that HT, and we need to know which one do we want to use to control these 2 variables H and T. So for the H, or the liquid level, we can use either Fi or F, right? So in here, we want to choose the outlet flow rate to control the heat of the liquid. Okay, And then another thing that we can control is the heat that are passed from the coil into the tank. So that one is Q. Okay, so now one control equations will manipulate the exit stream flow rate, and then F to control the liquid height. Okay, one control equation to manipulate the steam flow rate, to control the liquid temperature. So we have an exactly specified problem. Okay. Now another example is that we perform degree of freedom analysis for the following stir tank breading systems. Okay. So in here we have W1, X1, W2, X2. Okay, so this W1, W2, and W is the first inlet, second inlet, and the outlet mass flow rates. Okay, the assumptions is that there is a perfect mixing. Therefore, the composition inside the tank is equal to the composition at the outlet. The density of the liquid is assumed to be constant. Likewise, you make this total mass balance and don't forget to put in the unit. Okay. Likewise, you have a component balance. Okay, where you put in the these things in here, the rho Vx over dt, and then rho can be taken out of the derivative. You need to know that the volume and the molar compositions in here, okay, basically change with time. These are not constant, so you need to use a chain rule. Then you note that you can put in this equation number 6. You put in these things and you get equation number 7. So finally, we have two different equations, 6 and 7. And all the process variables that we can list it out in here. We have V, W1, W2, W, X1, X2, X. The manipulated variables that we can use is that if we want, we have to control in here the main intention is twofold. The first one is we need to maintain the liquid level height because we don't want the liquid to spill out from the tank. The other things is that we need this tank to be performing its objective, which is to control the compositions of the outlet stream in here. So that means we have to control V and X. Okay, by controlling the V, meaning you're controlling the height of the liquid in the tank in here. Okay, so the manipulated variable that we need to deal is this W1 and also W in here. So by controlling the inlet flow rate of one of the stream, okay, and also the control flow rate in here, we will be able to control the height and also the compositions. For this stream in here, instead we treat this stream in here as the disturbance variables. Okay, and also the stream in here in terms of the compositions of the X1. But in here we know that we cannot control whatever that goes in, and also the compositions of the stream that goes out, that goes in from this stream too. Okay. The degrees of freedom, we have two equations. We have basically 7 variables in here. You want to go back again and check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So we have 5 degrees of freedom. Then if we want to specify W2, X1 and X2, we can reduce the degrees of the freedom to 2, and then we can add 2 control equations. To manipulate W, manipulate this to control the V, and then we can manipulate this W1 to control the X. Okay, so this one is something that you need to digest again later on a bit, because if you just look at this when I explain these things, then it may be a bit tough. Okay, I just go a little bit more, then I will conclude the sessions. Let's go into the linearization of nonlinear systems. The one that I give to you in here is the simulation based on nonlinear systems. Okay, if I go back into the MATLAB things in here, and this coding in here. So in real conditions, all the simulation has to be done using a nonlinear equations. Okay, If you simplify that thing, you make it linear, then that whatever the model can do is only valid within that particular linear value. It will not be able to go into the other value that are far from the linear validity value. Okay, this is why it seems a bit complex even for a simple cases, because you have a non-linearity term in here. For example, you have a multiplications between the term that contains the concentrations of A with the temperature in here. Okay, so for the sake of making the concept easy, we will go into the linearizations and into the Laplace transform. Okay, but in the real situations, every simulations that you put into the Aspen Plus, it's all actually non-linear. That's why I insisted on trying to give you the additional simulation capability, Aspen Plus Dynamics, for you to be able to simulate the real scenarios or the condition. Using MATLAB can, but you may need to sit down and think about how to troubleshoot the MATLAB code. It may take you about 1 month to basically troubleshoot the code and then design everything from the beginning, which you don't have. But if you just simulate that system using an Aspen Plus Dynamics, if you are familiar with it, you can solve that dynamic controllability within 3 days or 4 days maximum. With MATLAB, it may take you one month, even for people that are very good. They may need to decipher the code, they may need to check and then isolate the problem within that particular coding. So it's not something that are quite easy. Okay. In reality, everything is nonlinear. Okay. So linear and non-linear differential equations. A linear differential equation is a differential equation that contains variable only to the first power in any term of the equation. Okay. If you have a square root, squares, exponential, product of variable, etc., that equation is non-linear. And you have seen that equations where I give you the one on before, it was in the CSTR, that one is actually non-linear. Okay. Many dynamic model contains one or more non-linear term, therefore they are non-linear. So in here we have an example. So determine the non-linear terms in the following equations, for example. So for example, this one, I put it a quiz. For number 1, which one is nonlinear? Let's say I give it to Jising. Number 1, which one is the nonlinear terms in number 1, Jising? The first term, the second term, or the third term? For this one, which one is the nonlinear term? Yes, the third, correct. But you already know, I think, the answers because I have given these things. In the second one, there is no non-linear term, okay? And you can see the answers again in here. The third term is this one, because it involves multiplications or between the terms. Likewise, the fourth one and the fifth one. Okay, so in order for us to be able to use the to represent the process control in something that is more simple, then we need to do the linearization, okay, where we replace the non-linear terms with the linear terms. Okay, these are the reason. Because the non-linear system does not have a closed form analytical solution, whereas linear systems have. So, and the control theory for nonlinear systems is more developed than that for nonlinear systems. Okay, I will stop it here, but the key message in here is that whatever in the real situations is like this, okay, where we have something that is nonlinear, but for the sake of understanding how the process control behave and be able to utilize the transfer function and the Laplace transform, we need to keep ourselves simple and we just go into the linear systems. Why? Manipulating W1 will control X. Okay, let's go back again to the systems. Okay, so Jason, you know that basically when you control this, let's see, I go in here. When you control the W, you can control the volume. I think you agree with me, right? Because it's very clear. This W1 in here is equal to the flow rate of whatever it is that comes with the X1. So if you multiply this W1 with let's say the mole in here, then you're essentially controlling the mass of that particular component that goes into the system. So in essence, you are controlling the X as well. You get me? You get me, Jason? Is it clear, or I should make it more clear again for you? Okay, so normally that can be done as well. What we are showing in here is just one particular way of controlling. But like I said yesterday, if you want to manipulate X1, then you need to be able to measure X1. You agree with me? I'm telling you that measuring the concentrations will be more expensive than measuring the flow rate. Okay, so if you buy just a control valve to measure that to control the flow rate of this one, control W1, then that will be cheap. It may be only 100 ringgit, 200 ringgit. But if you want to manipulate X1, you will have to first measure that X1, and you have to use a chromatograph first. So you have to buy a chromatograph. Okay, that chromatograph may cost you thousands of ringgit, or even more. It can be like 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000. So in the real conditions, you always try to use a simple variables to adjust the conditions within your process. So you cannot, you will not be able to buy a Cadillac just to do something that is simple, Jason. To do something that is simple. So you have to be able to use something within your budget to do the job. If there is an easier, yeah, I think that represents the flow rate. Yes, it is. It's the mass flow rate, isn't it? You go back again and check into the units in here. So this will have the same unit with this one. So it will have the same unit like the rho multiplied by dV over dt. So that one is the mass flow rate basically, right? I don't really go into the details of these things, but the unit on the left hand side should be equal to the unit on the right hand side. So that's why later when you go back again and check the example in here, you need to be sure that my slide does not contain any mistake. The only way that you ensure that what I'm explaining to you does not contain any mistake is for you to check it yourself and ask me like this. So this is very good. I appreciate this kind of question. It makes everybody think deeply into the example. Okay, because even for me, sometimes when I try to prepare my slide, it may be the case that I don't really, I cannot really pay attention into all the single units, but you should do the case because you need to ensure that all my slides are correct. Okay, Jason, does that answer your questions? Any more questions, Jason? If not, I probably will stop in here before I finish the whole materials for the week 2. I'm not sure if I have an additional week 2 again materials. I need to check again into the module 2. Okay. Any more questions, Jason? Does that answer your questions? Do you have any more questions again that you would like to ask me? Any more? Happy to answer your questions. You see any questions? I'll just call one by one. Amanda, you have any questions? Anupaja, any questions? Clarence, any questions? James? Jason, I ask you again. I'm expecting to get more questions from you if you have any. And you are free to text me anytime. Okay. Juliana, Chising, Michael, Taha, Selena, Tiffany, you see, Wong Yo. No. Asking is very good. You have to ask because asking is the only way that you confirm your understanding and get deeper into the things that you need to know. Because the temperature can vary, Clarence. Okay, the temperature in your system can vary, but parameter is something that we take it constant for that particular problem. Does that answer your questions? And the heat capacity, for example, that one we can take it as a constant, for example, to make that particular problem simple. Does that answer your questions, Clarence? No problem at all. I stop the recording in here. I'll put it into the canvas, okay? And just try your best to go into your into the week 1 and week 2 and start the project 1. I hope it's open already. You can start looking at the MATLAB code, and if you need any help in installing the MATLAB code, you can go into the MATLAB online and start playing with the project 1 also if you want. Okay. Anyway, thank you everybody for coming.